What do you look for in a horror game? Do you want a horrifying story that sticks with you for days, or do you want a game that gets inside your head, twisting reality until you can't trust yourself, or do you want the pure adrenaline-fueled terror of running for your life? Welcome into the Lounge, single players. I've spent hundreds of hours playing horror games and collecting along the way, and so today we're taking a tour through my entire horror game collection, and these are just a few of them, and the ones that don't quite make it I'll have at the end just as an honorable mention. So instead of us having a simple countdown, we're going to actually end up breaking these down by the kind of horror that they deliver. The first one's going to be story focused, then we have psychological horror, and then obviously survival horror. Let's get into it. So here is the stack of all of the games that I consider to be more story focused. Again, all of these can be really merged into several of these categories, but this is just where I feel that it's got its strength. So let's get into the first one. We've got Still Wakes the Deep. I want to show you guys, look at this case. This thing's awesome. So in here we've got just interior cover art for this game. So let's head on and actually get into it. All right, so this game plunges you into a chilling tale of a survival aboard a 1970s Scottish oil rig, and you assume the role of an electrician on this oil rig, and there's a catastrophic event that unleashes an otherworldly horror onto the rig that transforms it into a terrifying hunting ground where you must navigate the treacherous and collapsing structure to save his crew and also find a way to his family. And even though I've put this in the story category, it does have environmental puzzles that you solve. There's also stealth segments.
Jesus.
And along with that, the DualSense controller support, it really helps you to stay immersed in this game. But don't worry, we got something for you Xbox fans as well. We've got Black Mirror. This game is absolutely awesome, especially if you're a fan of the classic survival horror game. So this is a modern reimagining of the classic gothic horror adventure series from 2017's Black Mirror. It invites you into a dark and unsettling world of psychological torment, but also family secrets. And you play as David, who follows the mysterious death of his estranged father. And essentially this game is a slow burn detective story at its core, but with chilling atmosphere and an intricate plot that takes over the action involved in this game. And while it does focus on investigating and puzzle solving, this game does separate a little bit from others because it has this vision system where you get a glimpse into past horrors that unfold within the castle walls.
Thank you. I'll lead the way. It's quite dark already. We can continue to talk inside.
It does that sometimes.
And along with that, this game has a rich narrative, just as far as characters, but honestly, this game for me is more about the story and the unknown part of it as well. But the next one we've got is also on Xbox, but I believe it's on PlayStation. I'm not sure. You guys can let me know in the comment section, but it's The Town of Light. This game is horrifying because it's real. And that's right, you heard me correctly. This actually is inspired by the events that happened in the real world Volterra, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's a psychiatric asylum in Italy. But essentially this is a first-person psychological adventure that takes a look into the dark and unflinching realities of the mental illness and the historical treatment of patients in the 20th century. And honestly, this game isn't a traditional horror experience because there's not really much jump scares or anything like that. But the true terror in this game is the real and the documented suffering that occurred within that asylum. And so as you guide Renee through the walls and corridors, you'll interact with environments, uncovering medical records. And another key feature about this game is that it has the real world locations that have been digitally reconstructed. And along with that, your actual choices in this game will influence your perception of the events, which can lead to multiple endings and revealing different facts on her tragic story. So there's a real replay value to this, but I gotta let you guys know that this game has some serious mature and unflinching narrative, so just be aware of that.
because I didn't deserve to live. I didn't deserve to be loved.
But for me, this game is something that I haven't played in like a while, where it's got that realistic aspect to it. And it also came with a manual, or a little manual. But anyways, the next one we've got is The Order. I know what you guys are probably thinking, so just give me a second to explain what I'm thinking here. And there's that interior cover art. All right, so this one actually takes you to an alternative Victorian London. So this game does a really great job of setting up and building suspense and having a sense of dread while you're playing through this game. And that's honestly what it is for me. This game, yes, it is a shooter. It's an action adventure that's done from the third-person perspective, and it's cover-based. But for me, it really does have that horror element. Anyway, so you take on the role of a decorated and battle-hardened knight of the Order, and you're armed with advanced weaponry, and you don't always have them, and that's another thing that really adds to the horror as you navigate through the treacherous landscapes and the political intrigue that's involved in this game. There's also a monstrous conflict to uncover as well that threatens to shatter the Order itself.
Oh, it's just getting started. Not to worry. I can do. Why, you little shit! Target down.
Next we have is Vampyr. I'm not sure how this one's actually pronounced, but that's what it looks like on the inside. All right, so at its core, it is an action role-playing game that's set in the gothic and disease-ridden backdrop of a 1918 London. You play as Dr. Jonathan Reed, who's a renowned surgeon and now a bloodthirsty vampire. Just some of the key features of this game, and then I'll let you guys know where the horror really comes into this game. So first off, this game does have a semi-open world. Also, there is a morality system where you can choose to be the hunter or the savior, and then based off of your choices, it'll actually affect your character's growth and the progression system that goes along with that. And along with that, it has an awesome combat system where you can use a blend of melee attacks, ranged gunplay, and devastating vampire abilities. But you will have to manage your health and your stamina, so it's not just all about the combat. Some of the horror features really in this game is just the atmosphere and also just the despair and decay of this world. Another thing is just dilemmas that you face and the decisions that you really don't want to make because of the two options.
One of those vermin. No, please stop. I mean you no harm. Sorry.
But again, the story is absolutely awesome in this game, and so that's why I've got it here in my collection as an awesome horror game. All right, so for the next game we've got, actually, I've got three of them. There's the Dark Anthology series right here. We've got The Devil in Me, we've got The Man of Medan, and then The House of Ashes. But today we're going to stick with this game right here. So this game is an interactive horror game that plunges you into essentially a modern-day replica of H.H. Holmes' infamous murder castle, and you control a group of documentary filmmakers who receive a mysterious invitation to this hotel. And just some of the key features, first of all, it's just the antagonist, man. That guy's scary. They do a really great job of making him that way, but also the hotel itself is really another horror aspect with shifting walls and secret passages, and with all of that, it really does add to a constant sense of unease and paranoia. Not to mention how they use sound and lighting in this game, but obviously the biggest part of this game is the consequential choices that you make and their results. And for the first time in this series, it actually adds an inventory system, so that's nice. There's also just an expanded exploration aspect to this game as well.
My sincere apologies for both startling you and for making you wait. I'm sure we'll see each other again soon.
And there's some puzzle elements as well to this game. Next we've got is Alone in the Dark. This game really could have went in any of the three categories. All right, I will start it off by saying I haven't actually played the original Alone in the Dark. You guys can crush me down in the comments section. But essentially this is a reimagining where it brings you back to the manor. There's a gothic mental asylum that is surrounded by a dark and mysterious past. And just some of the key features of this game. First of all, it's the two protagonists. So you've got Emily and Edward. You can actually choose to be either of them, and then you'll go through the story story and experience the horror through each of their viewpoints. It does have a classic survival horror feel to it, with the puzzle solving and the resource management, and depending on the difficulty and such, ammunition is scarce and everything. But for me, I would probably say my favorite key feature about this game is the Hollywood caliber, really, of their performances, and specifically about Edward. He's voiced by David Harbour, is in Stranger Things, and Emily's also voiced by Jodie, who played in Killing Eve. So that really just adds another level to this game.
Hello?
Looks abandoned.
It can't be. There has to be someone around.
What the hell was that?
And that's not even mentioning the audio and the visuals in this game, which are absolutely awesome in my opinion, or even the fact of the DualSense controller features. And next we have a game that I've actually talked about before, is Past Cure. So let's head on and get into this one. So this is a psychological thriller from an indie developer. It's actually Phantom 8 Studios. And this game does a really great job of blending genres into a game and bringing the story together. So you'll delve into the fractured psyche of Ian as a former elite soldier grappling with the aftermath of mysterious experiments that have left him with powerful supernatural abilities. The main gameplay in this is the third-person shooter combat, but there are some stealth segments as well and some puzzle elements. But again, the main thing about this game is the story-driven psychological thriller aspect of this game. Another thing is the dual realities. So there's a stark contrast between the gritty real world and the surreal that's really horrific.
Don't look at them. They're not real.
And overall, this game's just done in a cinematic presentation. The next one we have is The Quarry. This game is absolutely awesome. I've actually been playing it with my wife, so there's so much I really could say about this game. Essentially, it's an interactive survival horror game that was done by actually the creators of Until Dawn, and it follows a group of 9 teenage camp counselors who must survive a final night at Hackett's Quarry's summer camp while being haunted by monstrous creatures. So at its core, it is a cinematic narrative adventure, but the gameplay does revolve around also exploration. There's quick time events and making critical decisions at the right moment. And just some of the key features in this game: first of all, there's the Hollywood actors from actually Scream, there's Modern Family, there's Jurassic World, and even The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And so with those voice actors, it really does bring this game to life. Another thing that I really like about this game is that there's actually a movie mode. If you'd rather just watch the horror unfold, then you can select for everyone to live, for everyone to die, or you can create your own custom experience. There's also the local co-op, or essentially couch co-op, where you can play with your friends and family. There's also the customizable difficulty, and this part I really appreciate. So if you're not a fan of the quick time events or the button mashing or anything like that, all of that is customizable to make it easier or more difficult. There's also a death rewind system that gives you a chance to go back and alter a critical decision to save a character.
Anyway, maybe just ease up on the ghost stories.
Sorry.
Just stick to Kumbaya next time, okay?
What's that?
You guys don't do Kumbaya anymore?
You know what, Max? It's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a man.
You know, if Columbus hadn't gotten lost and landed on these golden shores, there would be no United States of America. Goodbye hot dogs. See you later apple pie.
Columbus never actually landed in North America.
What are you talking about?
Didn't even know he wasn't in Asia.
Are you serious?
Just another guy who didn't want to admit he was lost.
Well, just another guy who's got a whole day named after him, so put that in your pipe and smoke it.
But another thing that I really enjoyed about this game is the fact that there's actually a podcast that's included with this as well. And I actually prefer to listen to it after the fact of playing through the game, but that's just me personally. You guys can let me know which way you played that game before, if you have. And so next we've got Until Dawn. So this also is a cinematic survival horror game where you control a group of 8 friends whose mountain getaway turns into a terrifying fight for survival. And the story begins 1 year after a tragic accident that led to the disappearance of actually 2 sisters, Hannah and Beth Washington. And overall, the gameplay, it is an interactive drama that focuses on exploration, but there's also quick time events and making difficult moral decisions as well as strategic ones. And the main key feature about this game is the butterfly effect, where every decision decision you make, no matter how small, from choosing a dialogue decision to deciding which path to take, can actually have drastic consequences. This game also has a talented cast of actors, including those from Bohemian Rhapsody, Heroes, and even Fargo. Another thing that's different about this game is the psychological profiling that actually happens between the chapters, where you're put into therapy sessions with the analyst as Dr. Hill, and those decisions can have significant consequences.
Just a prank, Han. What did you do?
We're just messing around, Beth. It wasn't serious.
You jerks! Bag's here. Where are you? You're not in the bag, are you? Hello. What do we have here?
Another thing I really like about this game is the do not move mechanic that's involved with this DualSense controller, and if you move at the wrong moment, it can be fatal. So I appreciate how different they made that game. Also, I forgot to mention this game right here. It is not the same as the movie. I've actually seen the movie before I played this game, and don't be worried that it's going to be the same experience. I believe that this one actually comes after the movie, so if you've seen the movie, then you'll be good to go. But honestly, if you haven't, there's not really a whole lot you're going to miss with this, because it's just a different experience. And so next we have is Charon's Staircase. So this one's a first-person psychological horror game that prioritizes the mystery and the atmosphere over the combat, and it's set in the 1970s. The story follows an agent codenamed Desmond, who previously worked for a regime known as the Ministry, and this game has a slow burn experience, and you're going to be doing everything from navigating dark, oppressive environments, solving puzzles, and also just piecing together the narrative from the documents and the journals you find. And just some of the key features in this game, there's obviously the puzzle-based gameplay, which I find fairly significant in this game. Also, there's the narrative-driven investigation experience, and I guess what I mean by that is you must actively search for and read the documents to understand the full scope of the story, and also to be able to uncover the puzzles and the mysteries involved in this game.
A foul stench of blood permeated my clothes and disturbed my sense of smell, waiting for me, hidden in the shadows.
And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know this one is my least favorite game in the entire collection that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. I don't know, it's just the game doesn't do a really great job of doing any of the categories right, at least in my opinion. You can let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, but again, at the end of this video, I will be sharing with you guys my favorite for each of the categories. And you know what, I'll probably do a top 6, that way I'll do top 2 essentially for each of the 3 categories. And last but certainly not least in this section is this game called Raging Loop. And this game comes with an art book, storybook. I'm not sure what you would want to call this, but yeah, I guess it's basically an art book. Anyways, it just shows like some of the characters as well, and this is what the case itself looks like. So let's head on and get into this one. All right, so this one's a little different. It's a psychological horror visual novel that thrusts you into the cursed Japanese village trapped in a deadly time loop, and it tells a dark and mature story of paranoia and survival, where your choices and the knowledge you gain from each death are the only tools that you have to actually escape. And so you follow a young man who finds himself stranded in the remote mountain village after a motorcycle crash. He then quickly finds out about the feast of the Yomi Purge, but essentially this game is like a real-life version of the party game Werewolf or Mafia, you may actually know. And just some of the key features, first of all, it's just the mature psychological narrative that this game brings, not to mention the time loop mechanic, that death is not actually the end, and it's actually the tool. And along with that, there's the branching story and the multiple endings as well, so your decisions dramatically affect the course of the story, leading to numerous bad endings and several distinct true endings as well. And another key feature about this game is the revelation chart. It's essentially a flowchart that maps out the entire branching narrative, and it allows you to see where your choices led to, and it also lets you instantly jump back to any previous decision to explore a different path without needing to replay the entire game.
しばらくしたら立教があっから渡れ
And even as a guy who doesn't really enjoy reading, I would much rather play a game than read. This game was actually quite enjoyable because there's nothing like playing this game in the dark and also just playing with headphones. I personally think that you need to play this only with headphones and in the dark, because other than that, the horror element really just kind of goes out the window. At that point, it's more of a mystery. All right, so those are the games that I personally think that focus more on the story aspect of the horror genre, and these here are more on the psychological part. where they still can have a great story, and this really goes for the rest of the video, but in this case we're talking about the ones that have the psychological aspect and don't really focus on you necessarily being in immediate danger. So let's head on and get to the first one, which is A Quiet Place. All right, so obviously this game was inspired by the movie Quiet Place. It's essentially a first-person single-player survival horror game that immerses you into that universe, but again with a whole new original story. And so you play as a young woman named Alex Taylor who must navigate through the treacherous post-apocalyptic landscape while grappling with her own fears and struggles. I'm not going to say too much about this, but this game is absolutely awesome, especially for the storyline. I had to put this in the psychological aspect because you constantly have to be aware of the sounds that you're going to create by what you're stepping on and how you're moving, and even not just by walking, but how you open and close doors and just other aspects of this game. But it's not just all about the psychological aspect. There's also environmental puzzles, manage your resources, but honestly the biggest part of that is how the game, it features a unique mechanic where Alex's asthma can actually trigger at any moment of high stress, forcing you to manage her breathing and avoid making a fatal sound.
Shit. Seriously, where is he?
I want to suck your blood!
Look for batteries too. My flashlight just died. And for a radio.
And actually another key feature about this game is actually the microphone detection, or the option for it, for if you turn that on, then the enemies can hear you based off of what's going on in your current environment. I can't do that because I have dogs and I would probably die fairly quickly, but just so you guys are aware, it's something different and unique, and I personally appreciate it. Now for the next one here we have is it's not a VR game, but it does have a VR mode included, and I just recently got a PlayStation VR headset, so I had to throw this one in the list. So here we've got another terrifying first-person survival horror game. I guess it's more psychological than really survival. It does have a little bit of aspects. Anyways, it's deeply rooted in time mythology and lore. So you play as Tim, who awakens in a strange, dilapidated building with no memory of how he arrived. And honestly, he's been in turmoil since the mysterious disappearance of his wife, Jane. And so now he's in a desperate search for her and to escape from the nightmare. And one of the things that I really do like about this game is how you'll explore different environments, everything from a haunted school to a traditional Thai home, where all along you'll be stalked by a relentless female spirit and terrifying entities. With no way to fight back, your only option is to run and hide in lockers and behind objects, and just some of the key features. So obviously there's the stealth-based survival aspects of this, but honestly most of the game I felt like the in-between parts were more psychological than being actively in danger. But I guess that's one of the things about this game, you don't really know when you're in danger until you see her. But in the middle of all that, you're still having to solve puzzles through interacting with the environment.
There you are. Miss. What the fuck?
But I will give you guys a disclaimer. I've only played this in the VR version. I haven't played the regular on TV, so you guys can let me know if you've played this on the TV, if you think it's better or worse, or what you guys think. But next we have is Karma. This game, the case is just absolutely awesome. And so that's the front and the back. And I'm going to show you guys the inside here, and then also what it came with. I've actually gotten a couple of games from this company. They always throw in their sticker, and then we've got the ID card, some pictures. So let's head on and get into this one. All right, guys, so this is a first-person cinematic psychological thriller that is set in a chilling dystopian version of 1984, and this game plunges you into a dark world where you must navigate both a grim reality and a nightmarish otherworld to uncover deep-seated conspiracy. And all of this takes place in a totalitarian Germany where the Leviathan Corporation maintains order through oppressive surveillance, and you play as Daniel, who's a loyal officer of the regime who finds his world turned upside down when his wife is mysteriously abducted. And just some of the key features about this game. First of all, there's the dual world mechanic between the cold dystopian real world and the nightmarish dark world. Solving puzzles and uncovering the full story requires navigating both realities, and the way that they do that part is it's absolutely awesome. There's a psychological investigation where you're tapping into memories that are left behind by objects and witnessing past tragedies. There are a couple parts in this game where there is a little bit of a survival aspect to it, but you really never know what's going on in this game, especially the first time you play through it.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you. I woke up in a room, passed through calibration, and ended up here. I'm Daniel McGovern, a roam agent from the Thought Bureau. My company ID is 8490.
All right, for another awesome psychological horror game is Evil Inside. This game is crazy. All right, so this is a first-person psychological horror game that absolutely places you in a constantly shifting and a claustrophobic environment. It offers a short, intense narrative experience that's focused on atmosphere, jump scares, and a tragic family mystery where you follow Mark, who's a teenager whose life is shattered after his mother is brutally murdered and his father is arrested for the crime. And the gameplay takes place entirely within the actual haunted house. And just some of the key features about this game. First of all, it's just the constantly changing environment, which not only helps you feel completely helpless, and while this game doesn't do it often, there are jump scares in it that will really get you. But overall, this is a short game, can be played probably within just a couple of hours, but it's a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of psychological horror games. Speaking of which, now this one will make you feel claustrophobic. We've got Narcosis on the PS4, so let's head on and get into this one. All right, so this is another first-person survival horror game that plunges you into the crushing dark depths of the Pacific Ocean. Although, honestly, for me, it's more of a psychological thriller than just a survival horror game. You play as an industrial diver stationed at an underwater research facility, and your world is shattered when a massive earthquake strikes, destroying the base and leaving you stranded out all alone underneath the ocean's floor. Your only goal is to reach the surface before your limited oxygen supply runs out, which is really where the survival part comes into play. And honestly, the gameplay is quite slow, and honestly that's deliberate because of the claustrophobic feeling and just being alone. And as you navigate the treacherous underwater caves and collapsing structures, you'll have to manage your oxygen by not panicking, such as sprinting away or struggling against hostile creatures, which will deplete your oxygen as well. And just some of the key features, Narcosis is actually referring to the psychological effects of deep sea pressure and isolation and the effects of that. And the real fear mechanic in this game is that your oxygen supply is your life. So in this game, you're really not running from monsters, you're running from low oxygen. Funny as it sounds, but it's absolutely true. But along with that, with your massive suit, you can't really move that fast, and so the slow movement really adds to the atmosphere and sense of dread.
10:02, February 2nd. We were 50 miles from the epicenter, but an 8 on the Richter scale makes that kind of distance irrelevant.
Something's off. You seeing this?
All right, so next we have is Infliction Extended Cut on the PlayStation 4. This game is absolutely terrifying. Let's get into it. All right, so in this game, you'll step into a hauntingly atmospheric and deeply unsettling interactive nightmare where you're tasked with uncovering the dark secrets of a family torn apart by tragedy. As you piece together the events of the past, a relentless entity stalks your every move, seeking violent retribution. At its core, it's a story-driven exploration game that focuses on creating a palpable sense of dread and suspense, and you'll have to navigate ever-changing and often surreal environments of the family home, examining personal belongings, reading journals, listening to voicemails, and so much more. And just some of the key features of this game is really just the storyline, and specifically the mature and emotionally charged narrative that explores the themes of loss and grief, which are grounded in real-world tragedies, making the horror all that more impactful. Another thing about this game is the interactive and really evolving environment, specifically the house, and how it really blends the lines between reality and nightmare. The only real weapon in this game is light, where you can use it to stun the spirit.
Hang on, what are you doing? What's with the mask?
And the extended cut actually comes with some behind the scenes and additional stuff. That's just really awesome about that game. Now, this next one I've actually talked about before. It's Ad Infinitum. Infinitum, I don't know how you guys pronounce it, but this game is quite something. So let's head on and get into it. All right, so this is another first person. It's a psychological horror game that plunges you into a surreal and nightmarish landscape, and it offers a deeply atmospheric and narrative-driven experience between two worlds, blurring the lines between the visceral horrors of the battlefield and the fractured psyche of a young German soldier grappling with his trauma. Just some of the key features of this game is obviously the two realities that you get thrown back and forth in between that have their own type and style of horror elements. And while there are nightmarish creatures in this game, honestly, most of it, again, is psychological, and that's why I have it here in this list. But there are challenging puzzles that help you get through the deep narrative that's really involved in this storyline.
Stop pushing! It's not my fault you're such a slowpoke. And it's not my fault you can't do a boost up right. I've told you to, no climbing in through the window. But you didn't open the door. I knocked for ages, and no one answered.
Here is a copy of the Morse code alphabet I made for you. You probably know it from school. It's a language all its own.
And that's not even mentioning that the choices that you make in this game will determine your outcome. The next one we've got is, I just recently got this one too, In Sound Mind on PS5. All right, we got another first-person psychological horror game that really does a great job of blending puzzle elements to unique boss fights and also a hauntingly original soundtrack. But overall, this game invites you into the surreal and twisted memories of your own therapy patients, forcing you to confront the very fears that haunt them. And just some of the key features of this game, you'll explore a series of distinct worlds, each with a physical manifestation of different patients' psychological traumas, everything from a haunted supermarket to a phantom-infested lighthouse on a deadly coastline. And each of them presents their own unique mechanics and horrors. Another key feature about this game is the haunting soundtrack by the Living Tombstone, and how each level is accompanied by a unique and lyrical song that ties directly to the story's themes itself. And this game does have a fair amount of resource management, although it's not overwhelming in my opinion. You'll get to discover and utilize a variety of tools and weapons.
I might be able to break this with something.
There he is. Long have I waited for this moment, to watch as you scramble for your last breath, as you try to make sense of your reality and the gravity it carries, pulling you down. Ooh, I can't contain my excitement.
Even down to being able to find batteries for your flashlight, which can actually go out. So next we have is Madison. This game is terrifying, but in a good way. This game it's quite something. So it comes with a bunch of different little postcards. There's also just some pictures, and it's even dated on the back. And we can't forget about the little, I don't know how else to describe it except for like a little kid's narrative book thing. So let's head on and get into it. All right, guys. So again, we got a first-person horror game, but it throws you into the shoes of Luca, as a young man who awakens in a blood-soaked room with his hands covered in blood, only to discover he's been caught in the clutches of the entity Madison. And this entity forces him to continue a gruesome ritual that began decades ago, blurring the lines between reality and a true nightmare. And just some of the key features of this game, there's the instant camera mechanic. So your Polaroid camera is your most vital tool. Use it to explore the house, take pictures, to solve intricate puzzles. And honestly, you can use it to light the way sometimes. Also, the dynamic and unpredictable entity Madison is not a passive threat, and honestly, each playthrough is quite different depending on how you react to different situations. Another thing about this game is that while it's guided by the ritual, it does encourage exploration, where you'll discover and piece together a truly disturbing story of ritual, murder, and also possessions.
You are not my son! You are not my son.
And I know some of you guys are going to wonder why I didn't put this one in the actual next category, which is the survival one. And that's because this one really just plays more of a psychological game than a you're always in danger game, but it definitely has both. Next we've got is Blair Witch on PS4. So let's get into it. This one's also done from a first-person perspective, and it was also developed by Bloober Team, which was the team that created Layers of Fear. Anyways, it's set in 1996, 2 years after the events of the Blair Witch Project, and you assume the role of Ellis as a former police officer with a troubled past. Accompanied by your local canine companion, Bullet, you join the search for a young boy who's gone missing, and what begins as a routine investigation soon unravels into an endless nightmare as you confront not only the sinister forces that haunt the woods, but also the demons of your own past. And just some of the key features of this game, first of all, it's just the story of the personal horror that this character goes through, but also a really big part of this game is actually Bullet, your German Shepherd, and I would dare say he's almost the main character in a sense. You do get to customize the dog. Anyways, he can track scents and warn you of nearby dangers. Another thing is there's the found footage gameplay. You can use your camcorder to solve puzzles and uncover the story, and while the Black Hills Forest is beautifully rendered, it is also deeply unsettling, and the psychological aspects of how the woods will actually play tricks on your mind with looping pathways and surreal occurrences really gives you a true sense of dread and confusion.
You found something, buddy? We're not leaving that laying around, right, boy? Hey, hey, Jess.
Alice, are you okay? I tried calling, texting. I was worried something happened.
No, I'm fine. It's, under control.
And while there's not much jump scares or enemies coming after you in this game really has it with the psychological aspect. So there's that. Now, the next one we have actually is Layers of Fear on the PS5. This one definitely is a psychological game with a great storyline. All right, so first of all, I will say that this is the definitive and most comprehensive way to experience this series. It combines Layers of Fear and its sequels, Layers of Fear 2, along with all the DLC. And that's not even mentioning the brand new overarching narrative that's weaved through it all. But at its core, it's a first-person exploration-driven horror game that delves into the psyche of artists consumed by their craft. You'll navigate surreal and ever-shifting environments from haunted Victorian mansions to a desolate and eerie ocean liner, uncovering the dark secrets and tragic stories of its protagonists. Just some of the key features of this game, first of all, is the unified and the expanded narrative, so it all really feels cohesive, and they do a really great job of combining those games together to make it one story. And the gameplay has also been enhanced with new mechanics, such as being able to use a lantern to not only light their path, but also to defend against spectral horrors that haunt them, adding to a new layer of interaction and suspense. I can't deny the absolute psychological aspect this game has when you're starting to turn around and it's not the way it was before. This game is always changing and you can never expect what's coming next. But this game, I can tell you what's coming next. So we've got Observer, System Redux, and so this game is absolutely awesome. All right, so this one also is first person, but it's a cyberpunk thriller that's also done by the team that did Layers of Fear, and it plunges you into a dystopian future where war and plagues have ravaged the world, leaving corporations to seize the power. As you play Daniel Lazarski, he's an elite neural detective known as an observer, and as so, he's on the front line of policing with the ability to hack into the minds of subjects and victims to relive their memories, fears, and obsessions. And when a cryptic message from your estranged son leads you to a dilapidating tenant building, you become entangled in a chilling investigation that forces you to confront the darker corners of the human psyche and the unsettling nature of your own reality. And just a couple of key features again for this game. It does have the psychological horror aspect, but there is also the detective and investigating aspect to this. So there's puzzle elements, and there's also interviews that go on throughout the building and the tenants that you'll come in contact with. But for me, my favorite part about this game is actually the voice acting throughout this entire game, but specifically Daniel Lazarski is the same guy that played in Blade Runner, and he just delivers a compelling and authentic voice to the game's atmosphere and storyline. Another thing that I really love about this game is the exploration that goes on in this dystopian world. It's a semi-open world, I guess if you want to call it.
Careful what you say. This is a monitored channel.
Who is this? How'd you get this frequency? Adam? Oh my God.
Abnormal stress levels. Heart rate irregular. Administer a mild sedative.
Dispatch, this is Lazarski, ID 656210. Can anyone hear me?
And while I will say that this game is kind of a slow burn, especially at first, this game is absolutely awesome as a psychological horror game. And finally, we come to the biggest category of all, the one that started all, survival horror titles that give you a clear and a tangible threat. And honestly, those aren't all of them. I just couldn't carry them all. And so let's head on and get into the first one here. We've got Scholar's Mate. I'll just show you. It's the same on both, the slipcover and also the, well, this part's different. Let me show you that. So we've got the slipcover and then it looks like that, but the back looks the same. And this one also did come with an interior cover art, so that's cool. It did come with this right here, which I can definitely appreciate because you will definitely need to know where you're going, but honestly it's still kind of a smaller map, so I don't know that you would necessarily need this, but it's there. So basically this is a first-person horror escape room. Essentially it's set in a sinister puzzle-filled psychiatric hospital as you take on the role of Judith as a young woman who must navigate through and go through a bunch of puzzles. This is probably one of the least favorite aspects of it for me because of how many puzzles they are, and it's really just a combination of that and you hiding from the monster. And for me, there really wasn't that much story to it, but there really is the survival part. So I would say the main key feature, at least for the horror part, is actually Eddie, who's the antagonist, and he really does add a level of stealth to the gameplay, but also urgency to being able to find what you need and solving the puzzles. And while at first it does have an enjoyable aspect of going through and exploring, eventually you quickly find out where basically everything is and you don't honestly need the map.
Hello? Is someone there? Please? Say something. Help me. I'm in a hospital. I saw someone and then I heard someone scream. Tell the police, please. Are you the guy that brought me here?
This game has a serious puzzle aspect to it, but also being able to hide from that monster. And if you really just enjoy the adrenaline that you get from hiding and the puzzle aspects, then I think you'll absolutely love this one. But for me personally, I didn't actually enjoy this one as much. But this next one I actually quite enjoyed. It's Apsulov, End of Gods. The first thing I will say about this game is that it does a really great job of blending the survival horror genre with a science fiction adventure game and also ancient Norse mythology. So as you're plunged into into the world where humanity's quest for divine power has unleashed a terrifying force. And as you navigate the nightmarish sanctuary, you must survive the lurking dangers and unravel the secrets of a world where mythological artifacts and advanced technology collide. Just some of the key features in this game, or actually I would say the main key feature, is the unique sci-fi Viking setting that it's got going on. You get to explore this captivating and yet dreadful world that seemingly merges futuristic aesthetics with the rich tapestry of Norse mythology. But don't worry, this game does have some horror aspects and uneasy feelings that come along with it because of the suspenseful encounters, but also just the disturbing imagery. And I had a hard time putting this game down because of how awesome it blends the categories and it's so enjoyable. Another key aspect about this game is how you get to discover and also utilize a wide range of mysterious artifacts to navigate the world, but also just to confront the horrors that await as well. But ultimately, unlocking the secrets of these powerful items is crucial to your survival and also understanding the unfolding catastrophe.
Do you see? She left because she hates you. She left you all alone here.
But for me personally, this game was just awesome because it did a really great job of blending several different categories. So there's obviously horror, but there's adventure and stealth elements. There's even a fair amount of puzzle elements as well, but they're not overwhelming, and even just survival elements, making this game quite memorable, and it's definitely staying in my collection. Now, this next horror game is the only one that I know of that you can play from multiple perspectives, and that's Outbreak Contagious Memories on PS5. So basically, this is a survival horror game that gives homage to the classic survival horror titles like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Everything from the limited resources to puzzles to even the enemies. Anyways, you follow Lydia, who awakens in an abandoned warehouse in a city overrun by zombies, and she must band together with other survivors to navigate the dangerous streets and solve puzzles and ultimately find a way to escape. Just some of the key features, or the main key feature, is the multiple camera perspectives, and it's a nod to the evolution really of that genre. And so you can switch between the classic fixed camera angle, or you can switch to over the shoulder, that third person perspective, or even the first person perspective at any point during the game. And so this allows for a customized gameplay, but it's not perfect in any of them, at least in my opinion. But I think it's really cool how they added that aspect. But this game overall does really feel like a classic survival horror game, not only in the resource management, but in the way that you have to fight the zombies. Another thing about this game is that beyond the main story, you get to unlock some bonus content, specifically Operation Rabid Wolf. It's a bonus game mode where you can fight through the city to rescue survivors. But honestly, the most humorous and maybe enjoyable part of this game is the cheesy 90s aesthetic, specifically with how they embrace the B-movie type horror vibe with the cheesy voice acting and retro inspired presentation.
Thank goodness. You're awake. We could really use some help.
And so for me, the humor is quite enjoyable. And honestly, the first reason that I got this game that I thought was interesting is I had seen, and even I was skeptical of if you could do it in all three of the perspectives. And you can actually do it. Although for me personally, I enjoyed the third person perspective out of all three of them. And for the next one we've got is GreyHill Incident. This is a fun little alien survival horror game. So basically, this is a story-driven survival horror game that's set in the early 1990s, which is actually when I was born. You play as Ryan Baker, is a resident of the quiet and close-knit neighborhood of GreyHill. You'll find yourself in the epicenter of an atmospheric alien invasion. And while you will be armed with a trusty revolver, your main goal is just to navigate the dark atmospheric streets of GreyHill, solving puzzles and helping neighbors while evading and fighting off the menacing alien invaders. Although the primary goal in this game is actually just survival, investigation, and uncovering the vast conspiracy that has descended upon the town. And just some of the key features is obviously obviously the classic alien invasion story that's inspired by different accounts from books and classic films from the 90s. Another thing is just really how this game does the survival gameplay aspect in a different way with the alien invasion, and how you'll have to manage your limited ammunition and resources and just make tactical decisions as far as running or hiding, or how you're going to outsmart the aliens versus just fighting them. And all while you're doing that, you're having to explore the detailed and atmospheric neighborhood of GreyHill to find clues and uncover the truth. But for me, my favorite aspect of this game is actually how it utilizes a dark and suspenseful environment combined with the eerie sound design to build a constant sense of dread and paranoia, so that you really never know what's coming up next.
Damn it. He still hasn't fixed the TV. Who's there?
I'm going to your room, Henry. Stay here.
Max, stop barking. Who's there?
Fuck. Is someone in the shed?
Max, be quiet.
Find something to break this door.
And so if you're a fan of alien games, or even more specifically survival horror games or classic survival horror games, then I would highly recommend that one. But if you're more interested in the modern genre of survival horror, then you might not be interested. Now the next one you might actually be. It's Zombi. This game is absolutely crazy. This is the same one that used to be on Zombie U, and I had no idea it actually got ported to the Xbox One. So let's get into it. All right, so this is a first-person survival horror game, obviously, but this one can actually be quite unforgiving in a sense. It's set in a plague-ridden London that's been ravaged by a mysterious infection, turning its inhabitants into mindless, flesh-hungry monsters. And as an ordinary person, you must scavenge, strategize, and also just fight to survive as long as you possibly can. So this game is notorious for its punishing difficulty and core mechanic, and that's the permadeath. But this game does it in a different way, in the sense of when your character is inevitably bitten and overcome by the zombie horde, that survivor is gone forever, and you'll then wake up as a new, different survivor back at the safe house, and your previous character, now as a zombie, will be around the area where you previously had died, carrying all of that gear that you had collected. You can reclaim all of that after you hunt down and neutralize your former self, adding a unique layer of tension and also consequences, but also gives you motivation to be able to go get your own self and all that stuff you collected. Anyways, just some of the key features is also the brutal, unforgiving survival aspects. So resources are scarce and enemies are relentless, an aspect of stealth and being able to distract them versus fighting head on. We already mentioned about the permadeath system, but what I haven't mentioned is the makeshift weaponry and how you can fight back with a range of everyday items and conventional weapons. There's everything from like a cricket bat to just a pistol or a crossbow. Another aspect about this game that'll really keep you on your toes is you're not playing with a Wii U gamepad. So whenever you're pulling up your inventory or your map, then it'll force you to remain aware of your surroundings and manage your gear. I will say that the game also did receive a slight visual upgrade and an expanded field of view for the Xbox One, so that's a nice benefit.
Don't be squeamish. Think of it as an unspoken agreement between survivors. Because if you got infected, wouldn't you want someone to do the same for you?
So not messing about with these bloods.
That backpack is a bug out bag, see? You need it and what's inside.
Although my favorite aspect of this game is the sense of dread and atmosphere that you really get with this game with everything that's going on. So it's an absolute must for those of you that are fans of survival horror. Now this next one I've talked about before, but for those of you that don't know, Prey is a horror game as well on the Xbox One I've got here. So let's head on and jump into that one. Alright, so you awaken as Morgan in a lavish but desolate space station in the year 2032. And you're the subject of an experiment that honestly went horribly wrong. And the station becomes overrun with mysterious and hostile alien entities known as the Typhoon, and as you're being hunted by these creatures, you have to uncover the dark secrets of the space station and also your own past in order to survive. But essentially this is a first-person sci-fi action game that also blends tense psychological horror with immersive simulation gameplay as well, and this not even mentioning the massive interconnected space station being a world of its own, full of secrets, branching pathways, but also deadly threats. and your only tools are your wits, your weapons, and some mind-bending abilities, and just some of the key features. It's just a constant sense of dread, and that's because the primary alien threat, it mimics any of the multiple everyday objects, so it can be everything from a coffee cup to a trash can to even a wrench, and because of that, it creates an intense paranoia within yourself. And that's not even mentioning how the space station itself is really just a haunted house in space. Everything from the eerie silence to distant scratches, unsettling whispers. But one of my favorite aspects of this game is for any problem there's always multiple solutions. You can either choose to use the glue cannon to create a makeshift staircase to bypass dangerous areas, or you can hack turrets to fight for you. But this freedom also extends to choices that you make and will impact your gameplay, especially depending on what type of neuromods you use.
That was a phantom. Typhon Anthrophantasmus. Keep moving.
And that's not even mentioning the story that goes along inside this game. This game's absolutely underrated, at least in my opinion, because I just don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I know it's not for everyone, but you might actually really enjoy it. Now, this one I can almost guarantee you probably haven't heard of, and that's Genesis Alpha 1. But this is absolutely awesome. Let's get into this one. All right, guys, so this is a unique and ambitious title that blends the genres of roguelike, first-person shooter, base builders, and also survival horror. In a near future ravaged by war, pollution, and corruption, the Genesis program is humanity's last hope. As captain of the USS Genesis, your mission is to journey into the vastness of uncharted space, find a new home for humanity's DNA, and save your species from extinction. You are responsible for every aspect of this critical mission. You'll build and customize your own starship, manage your crew of clones, explore strange new worlds to gather resources, and defend your vessel against terrifying alien infestations. Each decision is critical, and the galaxy is a deeply hostile and unforgiving place. And just some of the key features is the pervasive dread that goes on in this game, everywhere from when you visit new planets to derelict ships that you explore. Each time it holds the potential for a gruesome discovery, and that's not even mentioning the constant risk of being boarded by hostile alien life forms. And if you fail to do that, then there also is the roguelike consequences, but also permadeath. Although it is a little bit forgiving in the sense that if the captain's killed, you instantly take control of another crew member on your bridge. However, if your entire crew is wiped out, your mission is over.
This is the refined storage module. Production-ready materials leave the refinery and will be stored here.
And that's not even mentioning the genetic cloning that can happen in this game. And while it can help you because of some of those aliens, sometimes it'll hurt you in the long run. Also, there's a real sense of claustrophobia in this game, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, this one, on the other hand, was quite terrifying, and that's Evil Nun. This game is crazy. So we've got the slipcover there, and that's what the front of it looks like. And that's what the case itself looks like. And then on the inside, you guys already saw before, this is another game that has that sticker that came with it. And there's also the soundtrack. And then we've got a poster card thing, and then we've got a little art book to go along with it. So it's just another nice little touch to the game. Although I will say that I used to not really care for just hide and seek style horror games, but this one changed my mind. And I said it's hide and seek, but it's really just more than that, which is why I really love about this game. Essentially, it's a stealth horror experience that'll test your nerves and puzzle solving skills. And if you're discovered, then you'll have to run away and hide to be able to continue to solve the puzzle and escape. But anyways, you've been trapped in a cursed school and find yourself haunted by the sinister Madison, is a religious figurine whose faith has twisted into a desire for violent punishment. Your only goal in this game is to escape, and to do so, you must navigate the dark and decaying corridors of the school, solving intricate puzzles and crafting items to aid your progress. And just some of the key features of this game is obviously the stealth and the hiding gameplay aspect to it, but even more than that is the relentless AI that's built into her. So she's drawn to any noise and it'll investigate it, and it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're crawling through ducts or hiding in a cabinet or hiding in wherever you're hiding, she will find you. But honestly, you'll have to get used to all of that because of the expansive puzzle-filled environment and having to search for not only clues but the key items in order to be able to escape. And there is some level of crafting in this game where you can create tools that can also help you solve puzzles and create distractions as well. Another thing that I really enjoy about this game is that there are actually multiple escape routes, so you can discover different ways to flee the school grounds and can make it actually quite enjoyable, especially for you trophy hunters.
I will know, as within, so without, as above, so below. Come to me, Baphomet. Boy with blue hands.
Oh dear, no, mm-mm. Nope, forget that. And none of that's including the horrifying visuals and audio that goes on in this game. But honestly, my favorite aspect of this game is the difficulty setting. So you have 4 different options, I believe it was. But the first one is to be a ghost, and that way she doesn't actually see you. So then it just turns into a puzzle game. And so for me personally, I think this is the best game for anyone who wants to get into the horror genre. But that's just my thoughts. You can let me know yours down in the comment section. Now, this one's terrifying as well. It's Amber Alert on the PS5. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this game is that it actually came with actual cheat codes like they used to do in the retro consoles. So let's head on and get into this one. So this is a first-person body cam survival horror game where you act as a police officer who responds to a late-night call and discovers a cult of women abductors with your objective to rescue a kidnapped girl and survive the dangerous, sinister neighborhood. And this game has a realistic horror atmosphere, not to mention the challenging survival gameplay and the scarce resources. And as you navigate a dark and eerie neighborhood looking to save her, you'll be met with chilling surprises. But it's not just a first-person shooter. You're having to look through different houses to find her, and sometimes that means you'll meet locked doors and different things. So there's different challenges you have to overcome with this game and different items you have to find. But honestly, one of my favorite aspects of this game is the different filters that they have and cheat codes. So I'm not going to be able to show the no censorship one, but there is a pixelated filter, a black and white filter, and honestly my favorite filter, which is absolutely necessary, and that is the brighter flashlight that you can see here.
911, what's your emergency? Hello? Help?
And so for me personally, this game gave me serious goosebumps, and honestly, it might be more scary than Dead Space. I'm not saying I like the game more than Dead Space, but I'm just saying that it has a serious scare factor to it. Now for this one, we're going to change it up a little bit. We've got Remothered, Broken Porcelain on PS4. Alright, so this is a survival horror title, but it does have some psychological scares and also some stealth gameplay. And it serves as both a prequel and a sequel to Remothered Tormented Fathers. And it just delves deeper into the dark and twisted miseries surrounding the Felton and Ashman families. And as you follow the rebellious Jennifer as she is sent into the eerie Ashman Inn, where it begins as just a punishment, soon descends into a desperate fight for survival. And at its core, it is a stealth-focused survival horror experience where you must be strategic and resourceful and knowing where to hide, flee, or fight back against the formidable hunters that roam the inn. Exploration and puzzle solving are crucial to progression as well, as you scavenge for resources and uncover the clues to piece together the disturbing events that have transpired. Just some of the key features in this game, first of all, is the cast of captivating and unsettling characters that really add to the psychological plot of it all. Another thing that this game does a really great job with is the real-time cinematics. So the first time in this series, they're using fully animated real-time cinematics, and they're used to enhance the storytelling and immersion, obviously. Another thing about this game that I think that really could have been developed more, but it still was a really awesome idea, is the moth ability. And you can control a moth to solve puzzles and to gain a tactical advantage throughout the game.
You can't erase memories forever. It would be like erasing time itself.
The bathroom in room number 212 has to be cleaned. Oh, and don't forget that you'll be helping Elisa in the kitchen after lunch.
Fucking hell, then you scared me!
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm aware it's not a perfect game, but I'm always a fan of stealth games, and it's really cool to see that in the horror genre. So this one's going to be staying in the collection. Now this one we've got is Monstrum. This game is truly a what I would call hide and seek. It does have some puzzle aspects, but let's get into it. Alright guys, so this terrifying title drops you into a derelict and procedurally generated cargo ship, which is actually one of the most terrifying things about this game because each time you play it, it's different. You can't prepare for it. But anyways, the primary objective is quite simple, kind of like an Evil Nun. It's just to simply escape. And unfortunately, there's no way to actually fight any of the monsters on here, so your only options are to run, hide, and to use your wits. You'll need to scavenge for items to solve environmental puzzles and to ultimately discover one of the several potential escape routes. And if that's not enough, this game also has a permadeath feature, so if you're caught, the game's over and you'll start over on a completely different ship. And just some of the key features, there's actually 3 unique monsters, each with its own unique behaviors and methods of hunting, so learning their patterns is crucial to your survival. And while in my opinion Evil Nun is definitely better than this game, it's still a lot of fun, especially with the procedurally generated levels and each time it being completely different. Now this next one I've also mentioned before, and that is Daymare on PS4. It's a different kind of survival horror game. So essentially this is a third-person survival horror game that gives homage to the horror classics of the late 1990s, offering a challenging and tense experience for fans of the genre. And as you're plunged into this nightmare of a scenario involving a deadly chemical weapon that transforms the inhabitants of a small secluded town into ravenous monsters. And so the story itself is actually told through the eyes of 3 different characters: an elite soldier, a helicopter pilot, and also a forest ranger, each with their own unique perspective on the unfolding catastrophe. Also, the gameplay itself is heavily inspired by the 90s as well, so there's the focus on resource management, puzzle solving, and methodical combat. Not to mention you'll have to carefully manage your inventory and strategically dismember the undead. And so if you're looking for a challenge, this game is definitely for you. And just some of the key features as well. There's a hardcore mechanic where there's a real-time inventory management system, which basically means the game doesn't pause when you're accessing your inventory, so anything can happen. Another thing about this game is that the enemies are tough and they're resilient, so this isn't an easy game by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say that this game does have a deep collectible aspect to it as well, where you can uncover the town's secrets and the full story behind the outbreak by finding various documents, files, and also collectible items that are scattered throughout all of the environments.
It's about time you guys got here. You're with emergency response, right?
That's right. Agent Liev. How's the leg?
It hurts. Can't move very far, though.
That's unfortunate.
And so if you're looking for a challenge, I would highly recommend this game, especially if you're a fan of the classic survival horror genre. We're going to head on and get into the next one, though. Now, this next one is Chernobylite on PS4. This one's quite a bit different, so let's head on and get into it. So basically, this is a science fiction survival horror role-playing game, but it's honestly so much more than that. And one of the reasons is because of the hyper-realistic 3D scanned recreation of Chernobyl. But anyways, you're thrust into the role of Igor. He's a physicist and a former power plant employee who returns to the disaster zone to investigate the mysterious disappearance of his fiancée from 30 years ago. And so this game does a really great job of blending the free roaming exploration aspect to challenging combat and resource management and the non-linear storytelling that it has going on. And this game isn't really all about the combat or the survival. It's actually about uncovering a deep and personal mystery where your choices actually have a significant impact on the narrative and the world around you, leading to multiple possible outcomes. But the main core component of this game is building and managing your base of operations, where you'll plan missions, craft equipment, and tend to the needs of the companions you recruit. And each of those companions have their own personality and skills, and so keeping them alive and loyal is crucial to your success. Another thing that I really enjoy about this game is that it's structured in a mission-based way, but it also allows you to choose your objectives and tackle them in a way that suits your playstyle, whether you're doing it through stealth or strategic combat or just cunning evasion.
Wake up, you sleepyhead. Look over there.
And while those key features might not be horrifying in and of themselves, when you put them all together, it really does feel like a game where you're surviving in a horrific environment. So this game is absolutely awesome. Definitely recommend. But this next one's for you fans of the classic survival horror genre, and that's Tormented Souls on PS5. So essentially this is a modern version of a classic fixed camera survival horror game. You take on the role as Caroline Walker, as a young woman drawn to the remote town of Winter Lake to investigate the mysterious disappearance of two girls. After a violent encounter, she awakens in a bathtub hooked up to medical equipment in a terrifying derelict mansion turned hospital. With her life on the line, you must explore the dark, shadow-filled corridors, solve puzzles, confront grotesque creatures, and uncover the sinister truth behind the mansion's dark past and find a way to escape. One of the things that I can really appreciate about this game is how they designed it in a way that there's truly a palpable sense of claustrophobia and dread, as danger can lurk in any unseen corner. And that's not even mentioning the limited resources that you have and having to solve complex, multi-layered puzzles that require keen observation and logical thinking to progress. And just some of the key features is obviously the fixed camera angle perspective, but also just how difficult the puzzles are in this game. But one thing I really did enjoy was the immersive and gothic atmosphere and how it really enhanced the horror in this game, especially with the lighting and soundtrack in this game. And so in my opinion, this is the best way to play this game, and not to mention the 4K resolution and the controller support. But this next one we've got is also quite terrifying, in my opinion. That's Condemned Criminal Origins. So basically, this is a first-person psychological thriller that plunges you into the dark corners of a decaying city as Ethan Thomas, a rising star of the FBI's serial crime unit, who gets framed for the murder of two fellow officers. And so he's dragged into a terrifying underworld where the city's homeless and criminally insane are being driven to extreme violence by unseen force, and you must use your investigative instinct and brutal survival skills to hunt down your accuser and uncover the sinister truth behind the madness. And just some of the key features in this game is the visceral first-person melee combat, also just how aggressive the enemies are. But another thing that I really enjoy about this game that kind of breaks it up in the middle is the deep forensic investigations that go on, and using a variety of authentic forensic tools, including a UV lamp, a 3D laser scanner, and a gas spectrometer to collect evidence and solve environmental puzzles. But overall, it just has this psychological thriller narrative that really does keep you on the edge of your seat. Another thing about this game is the intelligent enemy. They're not mindless by any stretch of the imagination. They'll do everything from flanking to hiding to even using the environment against you.
Thomas, I don't got all day here. Let's get a move on.
114, report in. Have the feds arrived?
Becker here. FBI on the scene. Over and out.
He's right above us. Call for backup now.
This is Officer Becker. We need backup immediately. 4th and Stark. Potential homicide suspect still in building.
Officers are on their way. ETA 10 minutes.
I know you're down here!
Federal agent, come out peacefully or I will use force.
Fuck you!
And that's not even mentioning the unrelenting atmosphere in this game from both just the lighting, but especially the sound. I would definitely recommend it. Now, this one's awesome as well. It's Outlast, and this is the trilogy one. And so it's got Outlast, The Whistleblower, and also Outlast 2. So this is an awesome psychological horror collection that offers a relentless first-person survival horror experience where combat is never an option and your only hope is to run and hide. So it's known for its intense atmosphere, its unsettling themes, and its reliance on a handheld camcorder, and specifically the night vision with it. And just some of the key features of this game, first of which I've already mentioned. So you have Outlast, but also Outlast Whistleblower is just an expanded DLC to the first one, and then obviously the second game. Both of those take place in a different location. One's in an asylum, and then the other one I believe is in the desert. Another thing that I really appreciate about this game, and I'm not sure if they're actually the first one that did it, but it's the camcorder mechanic and using it to navigate the darkness using the night vision that's enabled disabled in it, but being mindful of also the battery life and also being able to pick up batteries along the way and it just being scarce overall really adds to the horror, especially when you're going into those dark areas. Another thing I will say about this game is that it has the psychological part, but also there's visceral horror that goes on in this game, and it's just extremely graphic.
Little pig.
And who are you, then?
And that's not even mentioning the atmospheric storytelling in this game. It's absolutely awesome. You guys need to check it out if you haven't already. Now, this next game, I believe, has been thoroughly misunderstood, and that's the Callisto Protocol. It's not Dead Space. It looks like it would be Dead Space, but it's not. And if you can get past that, then I think you might actually enjoy it. So despite this being led by Glenn Schofield, who's the co-director of Dead Space, this game is actually an intense third-person narrative-driven experience with some other aspects. It's set on Jupiter's dead moon, Callisto, and you find yourselves trapped in a black iron prison, a maximum security penal colony that quickly descends into chaos when a mysterious outbreak transforms inmates and guards into grotesque mutated creatures known as biophages. And as you play Jacob Lee, a cargo pilot who's been stripped of his freedom and facing unimaginable horrors, you must fight to survive, escape the prison, and must uncover the dark secrets lurking beneath the surface. So overall, it is a narrative-driven experience, but it also does a really great job of blending brutal melee combat with a unique gravity weapon, which offers a strategic approach to dismembering the biophage. Also, resource management is crucial because ammo is low and every encounter is a desperate struggle to survive. This game emphasizes dismemberment gore. It allows you to target specific body parts to cripple or just outright destroy. And just some of the key features in this game. First of all, it's just the combat system that combines intense melee attacks with also ranged weaponry and the versatile gravity restraint projector gun. Another really cool feature about this game is the haptic feedback that you get from the PS5 controller.
This better be worth the trouble.
Max, we got trouble. We've been boarded.
And my second favorite aspect about this game is actually the melee combat system and how it feels like you're in there fighting with your fists and your other weapons than more of a shooter style like with Dead Space. But by far my favorite aspect of that game is the narrative and story that it brings. Now this next one was a hard decision, and that's because I've got Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. So you guys can let me know down in the comment section which one's your favorite. I personally think the first one is the scariest, but none of those are actually in the list, and that's because I just recently came across a copy of this. I was skeptical that this game was going to be able to match up to this game right here, but I was wrong. I'll say it. And that's because this game took everything that was good about the 360 version and made it better. So let's get into it. So first off, I'm going to say that there's such a big difference, at least in my mind, of the difference between the 360 and PS5 version that I'm going to actually end up keeping both, but I want to let you guys know about the PS5 version. So first off, this is a fully rebuilt and remake of that survival horror classic, and so that means it's been built up from the ground up. And while you'll recognize some of the areas you're going through, some of them you won't because of all the changes that they've done to this game. And the PS5 absolutely elevates it in every aspect. The narrative is expanded with other lore and side missions. The Ishimura is now itself a seamless environment, allowing for uninterrupted exploration and new challenges, including a peeling system that renders enemies with gruesome anatomical detail as you strategically dismember them. And this game also introduces use the intensity director. It's a dynamic system that essentially is constantly adjusting where enemies spawn and the environmental hazards are located, so it truly does keep you on the edge of your seat. And the oppressive darkness and sound design and even the claustrophobic feeling that you got from the 360 version, you'll absolutely get that and more in this game. And that's not even talking about the DualSense controller and the further immersions that you'll get with the haptic feedback from every heartbeat, every stomp, and distinct kickbacks from each of your weapons.
No chances, huh? Is that why you were digging into my personnel files before we left?
You check your file access?
I'm a computer analyst. Comes with the job.
Shit. It's not just comms or the guidance system. Half the Ishimura's in the red. Engines, hull, the trams.
Could do that kind of damage to a planet cracker.
Okay, that's the power. Ventilation's up. Power to the elevator should be...
Positive anomaly detected. Quarantine activated.
Another malfunction?
No. The quarantine systems are all fine.
Oh, wait. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, man?
Take it easy. Daniels, get those elevators running.
There's something in here with us.
Up there!
Oh, God!
Ken! No! Daniels, get the doors open!
Get out of there!
Ken, drop the doors!
I got it! Go!
I could really keep going on about this game, but it's absolutely awesome, and the zero gravity environment areas are even better now because you can actually move around them. There's full freedom of movement with that, so that's absolutely awesome. Now, for the next game we've got is actually 4 games. It's the Fear games, but honestly, I'm going to stick with the first one because for me, at least, this one's the most scary, so let's jump into Fear. Alright guys, so this is an intense first-person shooter, but it's also deeply unsettling as a psychological horror game as well. So it drops you into the boots of the Point Man, is the newest member of the Special Forces unit that deals with paranormal threats. And your mission begins as a manhunt to find Paxton. It's a telepathic commander who's taking control of a cloned army of replica soldiers. However, you quickly discover that the true horror lies within Alma, is a vengeful and terrifying powerful psychic girl who haunts your every step. And this game does a really great job of balancing different types of tension and just some of the key features. The game isn't relying solely on jump scares, but on a palpable, ever-present sense of dread. It's inspired by actually Japanese horror, focusing on the atmosphere and suspense, and you'll experience the hallucinations such as ghostly appearances in the corner of your eye and following trails of blood that appear to be out of nowhere. Another key feature is the cinematic slow-motion combat, but honestly, for me, it wasn't really so much about that as it was the unrelenting atmosphere and sound design in this game, and how the horror is amplified with just the sudden static of your radio, disembodied whispers, a faint sound of a child's laughter, or even the terrifying silence that precedes a paranormal event. And while all of these games actually have a horror element to it, I just thought this one had the most, so that's why I put it here in the list, but I'm definitely keeping all of them in my collection. Alright, so up next we have 2 games. We have The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2, but today we're going to do the first one. So I didn't actually realize it, but this game was done by the creators of Resident Evil. Anyways, this game plunges you into a relentlessly disturbing and psychologically unsettling world where sanity is a luxury and survival is a constant. You play as Detective Sebastian, who along with his partners is called to investigate a gruesome mass murder of Beacon's mental hospital. And upon arrival, you'll witness a mysteriously powerful force where you're knocked unconscious and awaken in a distorted, nightmarish reality populated by grotesque creatures and evil traps. As you fight to survive and also piece together what's happening, you must navigate through ever-shifting environments, confront your own fears, and uncover the truth behind the terrifying system. And just a couple of the key features that we hadn't mentioned. So there's the challenging survival gameplay in this, where ammunition is precious and enemies are formidable, and health is just simply hard to come by. The strategic combat, stealth, and resource management are paramount for survival. One of my favorite aspects of this game is actually the ever-shifting environments and how they'll warp and change actually all around you, leading to unexpected dangers and ensuring you're constantly on the edge.
Before I picked you up, said it was multiple homicides. Half a dozen units already on scene.
131, please advise.
Hey, maybe it's the ghost of that doctor who went schizo and chopped up all those patients.
But my favorite aspect of this game is actually the upgrade system and how you can use that from your fallen enemies to upgrade your weapon stats and other abilities. And if you love upgrading stuff, then these are the games for you. So we've got also Dying Light and Dying Light 2. This one I really enjoyed, and I think I actually enjoy this one more, but this one's more scary, so we're going to go over this one. So Dying Light, the following, it's actually a massively story-driven expansion for the acclaimed open-world survival horror game Dying Light. But Dying Light itself is essentially just a first-person survival horror game in an open world, and it blends the genre of visceral combat with parkour. So you play Kyle Crane. He's an undercover operative sent into the urban death trap on a mission. However, you're quickly entangled in a desperate struggle for survival between warring factions of human survivors. And in this world, your greatest weapon is not actually your gun or any melee weapon, but it's your agility. The city's a vertical playground, and your ability to seamlessly run, climb, and leap between rooftops is key to outmaneuvering the infected. The game itself is actually built around this revolutionary day-night cycle, which fundamentally changes the rules of survival. By day, you're the hunter. You're scavenging for supplies, setting traps, and completing quests for the city's survivors. But when the sun sets, the hunt is on you. You become the prey as a terrifying apex predator emerges from the shadows, forcing you into a desperate race back to safety or a UV-lit safe zone. And just some of the key features is a deep crafting system that this game has, where you can create hundreds of unique and powerful weapons and tools. Another key feature is the role-playing game aspects, or more specifically the skill progression, where you can develop your character to suit your playstyle. By performing actions, you can gain experience in 3 distinct skill trees. There's Survivor, which is for crafting and general awareness. There's Agility, which is for parkour moves. And then there's Power, which is combat effectiveness.
Jesus. How many people died here?
I cut my arm getting away from him. Oh, God. You had to kill him, didn't you? God damn it! That was my brother.
But by far my favorite aspect of this game is the exploration that goes on in this game, and I highly recommend both of them, but that one's definitely the more scary one, at least in my opinion. All right, up next we have is the Metro ones, and specifically we're going to be talking about this one here, or actually, because this is the dual pack, it comes with 2033 and Last Light, but today we're going to be talking about 2033 because in my opinion it's the most scary, so let's get into it. So first off, I will say that the Metro Redux bundle that has the 2033 and Last Light that you just saw is a ground up remake of the original 2010 classic, and so it has significant graphical and gameplay improvements. But anyways, you venture into the ruins of a post-apocalyptic Moscow, and overall it's just a gripping first-person survival horror shooter where you play as Artem, is a young man raised in the underground who's never actually seen the world above, and when a new and terrifying mutant threat known as the Dark Ones emerges to threaten your own home station, you're forced to embark on a desperate journey to the heart of the Metro system, and along the way your path will take you through haunted tunnels, across across faction-torn station cities and onto the deadly poison surface. And this game does a really great job of blending just atmosphere with heart-pounding action and stealth and hardcore survival mechanics where every bullet is precious and your gas filter is your lifeline. And just some of the key features, if it's not obvious by now, this is not a run and gun shooter, so you'll have to scavenge for resources and carefully manage them as well. And while you confront horrific mutated creatures, combat isn't necessarily the best strategy. Sometimes the best thing you can do is use the darkness to your advantage and extinguish lights to use silenced weapons and throwing knives to eliminate enemies without a sound. Also, with this Xbox One Redux version, there's the rebuilt graphics that's also at 60 frames per second. There's improved gameplay with better AI and stealth mechanics, but also there's two unique playstyles where you can actually choose from. You can choose the survival mode for a more classic resource and scarce horror experience, or a Spartan, which is just more of an action-oriented playthrough with more plentiful resources. And so if you're going for more of that horror experience, I would highly recommend the survival mode.
Without you to do like a goldfish outside his wall.
Almost there. This is the Coroliev performance hall. It's really close to the tower.
Gotcha! We'll have to get through the military outpost to reach the surface, Artyom.
Let's go, Artyom. Peace, disease. I've been through worse, and I'm not giving up.
Also, one of my favorite aspects of this game is actually the storyline and the narration and just how you really feel a part of a story with that game. So I highly recommend it. Now, for this next one, I really wish they would remaster it, at least make it so that PlayStation fans could get it. And that's Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. I'm sure I'm going to get some haters in the comments for this one, but that's okay. I personally think that it has a real horror aspect to it, even though technically it's just classified as a first-person shooter. Anyways, you choose one of 4 survivors to control, while the other ones are controlled by AI bots, and your goal is to fight your way through a series of campaigns that are each broken into chapters, and the main objective really is just to navigate through the zombie infested environments. And just some of the horror features for me personally is the atmosphere and overwhelming fear of dread, especially when you're playing this with headphones and the lights off and being faced with a massive swarm of fast moving enemies. But the real terrifying enemies in here are the special infected. There's the witch, the hunter, the smoker, the boomer, and the tank. But honestly, the witch is one of the most horrifying just because you can often find her sobbing in a dark corner, and you just have to be careful because a flashlight or a loud noise will unleash unstoppable rage. Another thing that this game does really well is the tension building sound design.
Ain't seen anything like this before. Jesus, don't let that stop you from smearing it all over yourself. They're changing.
God damn it, Bill! Oh, it stinks!
Someone's still alive. It's okay. We're gonna
Right off!
And not just because of the atmosphere, but also because of the enemies and the different cues that they have that they're ahead. It's just, it can be a terrifying experience, and I personally consider it a horror game. You can let me know if you disagree down in the comment section. Now, this next series, you guys probably saw it coming, but I don't know that I could easily choose which one it is, but it's all the Resident Evil games that I have here in my collection. I've got everything from Resident Evil 2 to 3 to the Revelation games 1 and 2, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 4, Operation Raccoon Raccoon City, even the Code Veronica X one that I got recently. But for me, I had to choose Village because I found it the most terrifying. So let's head on and get into it. This was a hard decision, and I would love to know what's y'all's opinion of which is the scariest Resident Evil game down in the comment section. But just in case you've never played this game, let's head on and get into it. So you once again step into the roles of Ethan Winters, who's living in a seemingly peaceful life with his wife Mia and their infant daughter Rosemary. But that peace is shattered by a familiar face to the fans of this series. And because of that, it thrusts Ethan into a desperate search that leads him into a mysterious and terrifying European village. And this game just does a really great job of blending the first-person perspective with more action-oriented and exploration aspects. And the game shifts from the claustrophobic corridors of a single house to a sprawling gothic setting filled with secrets to uncover and monstrous creatures to fight. And survival in this game is a constant struggle as you manage a limited inventory, craft essential supplies, and you'll fend off a variety of enemies and unspeakable horrors. But even more than that, it's about exploring a vast and mysterious village and its surrounding areas, from the towering castle to a nightmarish reservoir and a haunted dollhouse. This semi-open world design encourages exploration and rewards players with valuable resources and hidden lore. Another key feature that I really enjoy about this game is the mysterious and larger-than-life merchant known as the Duke. It provides a safe haven for where you can purchase supplies, sell treasures that you found throughout the village, and upgrade your weapons to gain a critical edge in combat.
Wait, there's more.
And by far my favorite aspect of this game is actually the combat, and how the best option isn't necessarily to fight. I've still got a couple more, but this one here kind of cheats a little bit. It's Resident Evil Biohazard, and I'm not counting it as the regular version. It's the VR version that I actually played, and I think is more scary. And while I'm aware this is not the only Resident Evil game that is in VR, and this isn't even the only VR horror game that I have, it is the scariest one, and so that's why I had to put it here in the list, because there's nothing like playing this in VR. So first off, the entire 10-hour or so campaign is fully playable in VR. So as you're placed directly into the shoes of Ethan Winters as he navigates the derelict, dangerous Baker family estate, the isolated view creates an unparalleled sense of presence, making every creak of the floorboards, every distant whisper, and every sudden appearance of an enemy a truly heart-stopping moment. If you've ever played VR, you know how much that can help to immerse you into a game. And just some of the key features. So first off, if you normally get motion sick, then I feel like this actually might still be a good game for you. I'm going to tell you why in a second, but it's partially due to the controls, and specifically that it's played using the DualShock 4 controller. So it helps to provide a familiar and effective control scheme for both the movement and the combat. Another thing is just the customizable comfort option, where you can adjust the turning speed to either snap or just do it as smooth rotation. Also, you can enable a field of view blinder to ease into the experience. And if you're lazy like me, you can play this in VR, but also sitting in a chair. And that's actually how I got the gameplay here.
This new guy? I'm not feeling it. Again? Just don't be surprised if we have to make a change.
Mia, oh thank God I found you. It's me, it's Ethan.
Ethan? Ethan?
Are you alright?
You shouldn't be here.
What do you mean? You contacted me.
No, I wouldn't. Did I? Did anyone see you? Did he see you?
Who else is here? What the hell's going on?
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
And just like the regular version on the TV, all those features are still here in VR as well. So if you've got a PlayStation VR, I would highly recommend it. Now we've got the Doom game. So normally I would not consider Doom a horror game. I mean, it does have horror elements, but it's not, for me personally, it's not what I think of horror. I know some people consider it horror, but there is one Doom game specifically, or I guess technically two, and that is the original Doom 3 that comes on here, and the Resurrection of Evil. So let's head on and get into that, and I'll explain why. why. So Doom 3 BFG Edition is the definitive version for playing the classic 2004 Doom 3 horror shooter, but with modernized features and refined gameplay. So it's set in a Union Aerospace Corporation research facility on Mars, and you're thrust into the role of a lone Marine as a catastrophic teleportation experiment goes horribly wrong. With darkness enveloping the facility and monstrous abominations lurking all around each corner, you must fight your way through the chaos to stop the infernal invasion before it consumes all of humanity. And so this game just does a really great job of blending that high-octane action with also a thick, oppressive atmosphere that is truly suspenseful and horrifying. And there's even moments in this game where you really get caught off guard because of the constant sense of dread, but just not really knowing what's coming. One of the key features that I think is a big improvement is the integrated armor-mounted flashlight. So basically that means you can have the flashlight and the weapon simultaneously, but you couldn't previously. Another key feature about even just the BFG edition is that it obviously has the Doom 3 campaign, but it has the Resurrection of Evil expansion and the Lost Mission expansion. And that's not even mentioning the sound design and the atmosphere that this game brings. This one here, I do consider a horror game. The other ones, I don't know. You guys can let me know down in the comments section. So it's been several days now, as you can probably tell. I've been trying to decide what of the games that we've listed today are my top for each of the categories. And so I've came down to 2 for each of the categories that not only just had the horror and the scare elements, but for me personally, the ones that I kept going back to and that were the most fun. But before we get into those, I want to jump into a couple of honorable mentions. The first one being Until Dawn, Rush of Blood on PS4. This game right here is a very short game. It's an arcade shooter that is a lot of fun, but unfortunately, if you don't have a PlayStation VR headset, then this one's not going to work for you.
Looks like we're on the wrong path. It seems we've landed on the old ghost train.
And that also goes for the second one here, and that's why it's also honorable mentions, but it's just still a fun game. This one's a little special. The controls are a little difficult, especially if you decide to try and use it with the motion controllers, but me personally, I would just try it with the regular controller for this game. Now on to the first category that we had, which was the story-focused one, but for me, one of them is definitely the Quarry. This game is absolutely awesome, and it's a lot of fun to just play by yourself or with others, and overall, it was just very memorable for me, and that goes for this one as well. Alone in the Dark, it wasn't as scary for me. It definitely had some jump scares in it, but for me, I was just more interested in the story and exploring and just so much more with that one. But if I had to choose out of all of these 6 that I'm showing you guys, those 2 honestly probably would be at the bottom of the 6. And so the next one we've got here is the psychological ones. So we've got Evil Inside. This one was surprisingly good. I wasn't sure how good this one was going to be, but it was a lot of fun, not only just from the psychological aspect, but from the story point as well. But if I'm being completely honest, this next one blows the rest of the ones in this category out of the water, and that is Karma Dark World. This game is absolutely awesome, not just for the story, but the psychological aspect. If you haven't played this, you need to play this if you're a horror fan. Now for the survival horror category, or the one that really I'm choosing just to be just the scariest out of that specific category, is actually the Outlast. This game is absolutely awesome. This game's not only terrifying visually, but just audio wise and even just psychologically. If you haven't played Outlast, you need to absolutely check that one out, and I believe it's on VR as well. But for me personally, the best survival horror game and also the scariest is going to be Dead Space, specifically the PS5 version. And for those of you that want me to absolutely choose just one game out of all the ones that I've mentioned, I can't do that, but I will give you guys 2 just to head on bring it down even more for you guys. The first one here is going to be Dead Space, and the next one is Karma Dark World. And if you enjoyed this video, then I absolutely know that you'll love this playlist right here, where it has a bunch of games that I personally love and recommend. But until next time, y'all have fun playing single player games.